Hello, I'm Flynn from Dystinct Magazine. This is my sister Ava, who is helping me out today. Today we are going to talk with Ella Fielden. Ella
Yep.
is a woodworker, sculptor, and chainsaw artist. Welcome, Ella. We are very excited about this interview.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you for having me.
Ella, what inspired you to start using a chainsaw for art?
Well, I was very lucky to, I did a degree in sculpture, fine art sculpture. So we could play with any kind of material and do lots of different things. But in my last year, you have to do a long essay called a dissertation. Or I was allowed to not do that and work with an artist and keep a diary. And so I chose to do that. And I'd seen somebody at a festival that I'd been to that was doing it. And so I asked them if I could hang out with them and have a go. But I didn't expect to do it myself. But they said, right, your turn. And I had a go and was like, oh, this is great. So it was me accidentally avoiding a large essay. It ended up changing my entire career path.
What age did you start?
I was 20.
Were you self-taught or did someone teach you?
Well, I learnt alongside somebody, but I wasn't taught exactly because you can't study it, not in the UK anyway. You have to make really, really rubbish things until they stop looking quite so rubbish and then eventually look a bit better. And then you can say that you have learnt something.
What is your favorite sculpture?
Of mine or other people's?
Of
Maybe
yours?
one I've made? One of mine I've made. The one that I think of is really simple, but it got my brain going in a completely different direction. And somebody asked me to make something that looks a bit like a very tall, thin blade, but it was more about getting it very smoothly finished and getting the angle right. And then once I'd finished, I realized that it was a way of working that I really, really liked. And so it sent me off, and then quite a lot of my sculptures now have a similar finish to them. So I think that one was quite an important one.
How many have you made?
I was trying to think about this the other day, actually. I reckon it's got to be well over 300. I'm not entirely sure, but it's got to be at least 300, I would say. A fair
What
few.
are your most riskiest sculptures you have made?
Well, all of them, to be honest, have a very big element of risk because you're using a chainsaw. But because I wear a lot of safety gear and I know how the chainsaw works and where are the, where you should put your head and things, I'm mostly safe. Saying that, though, there was one that I made which was very, very tricky to get to the right place, and it involved using a very tall access platform, which is a cherry picker, and then having to lean out quite far with a very, very, very long 6-foot bar over a river, and that was quite tricky. So I would say that one was probably the one that made my heart go in my mouth quite a lot.
Have you hurt yourself badly?
I have had a few accidents, mainly when I'm very tired or I haven't eaten enough food. So I always make sure I have lots of food with me and stuff. But I was using a friend's chainsaw that was a bit broken, which I have never done ever again since. So I learned that you have to be really careful with your tools and make sure you use it very safely. I was very young and I was learning. So I made an error, which I have very firmly learned from.
What is your favorite type of chainsaw?
I actually have quite a lot of chainsaws, and each of them have quite a lot of different reasons why I have them. So sometimes they're really big, sometimes they're really little, but there is one that I love a lot, which is it's a steel chainsaw with a carving bar, but it just seems to be that I can achieve the things I want in my brain well with it. So I'd say that's probably one of my favorites.
Are you dyslexic?
I sure am, and happily proud about it.
What struggles, if any, did you have at school?
I had a lot of struggles at school because unfortunately, I'm in my late 30s and school was not very good at recognizing various different ways of brains working. And so unfortunately, they thought I wasn't concentrating, or I wasn't making enough effort, or I wasn't trying hard enough. And unfortunately, that wasn't true, but it looked like it to them. So for me, I found it difficult to, like, it really affects my memory a lot. And organizing my thoughts, my belongings, my things, knowing not to get distracted, or, a bit kind of. So those things make it tricky when you're trying to do lots of things when in a room with lots of people. And also, I think with school, because they didn't know that's what was going on, they didn't keep your confidence up, because they just think that you're not trying very hard. And if you're not very confident and stressed, you're not going to be able to do those things, because then it makes your memory worse and all of those things. So yeah, I think we're lucky nowadays. People recognize it a lot more and can see it.
How did you survive in school and stuff?
How did I survive? Well, I ended up leaving mainstream school at 14, and I went to a school, like a college setting, where I could do my GCSEs, or whatever you call them nowadays, in a smaller amount. And so I did them over a longer period of time, and did sort of 3 and then 3 and then 3. But also I could do all the creative ones, and then all the sort of yeah. And it was an environment that was really positive and happy and lovely. And actually, I then went on, and I now have 2 degrees. So I just did it a funny route. But I love education and I love learning, but I didn't when I left school.
If you could tell a teacher about dyslexia, what advice would you give them?
I think the most important thing is to make your environment, make you thrive in your environment and make you confident and happy. Because if you're scared of making mistakes, and you make them a lot, you're not going to try and not going to want to do stuff. So if you feel happy and confident in your space, you're going to be braver to try to practice stuff. So I think that's probably the biggest thing.
Do you have a special message for fellow dyslexics?
We rock. We've got great brains. All my favorite people and some of the most amazing creative people and problem solvers are dyslexics, because I don't know what it's like not to have my brain, but there are a lot of people that don't have it. And we have an amazing way of thinking of different ways around stuff and seeing things differently. And that's how you get change and inventions and progression and exciting things that no one knew were there before. So I think we have a lot to offer, but we just have to maybe take a little bit more time.
For our international listeners, what part of the world do you live in, and what is your favourite place that you enjoy there?
So I live in England, and I live in a county called Surrey, which is very, very close to London. So I have the really lovely 2 sides of it, where I have amazing green forests and countryside, but I really like going into London to see all of the massive museums and galleries and interesting stuff that we have too. So we have I have a good mix of nature and like built up areas.
That sounds good. What is a fun fact about you?
I was trying to think of something, actually. I once wrote to the Queen and asked her to be my pen pal. And I got a very polite reply from Buckingham Palace saying, unfortunately, she's very busy, but here's a load of stationery and things that you can have instead.
Thank you, Ella. It's so amazing to talk with an artist that does something out of the box from the usual painting and drawing. We wish you all the best for future sculptures.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much. It was lovely to meet you both. Sorry.
Thank you everyone for listening. That's Dystinct.